Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So a lot of you guys have been asking me since COVID has started, do I miss San Francisco or will I miss San Francisco? And I always get these crazy looks when my answer is no or not really. And this video will be me telling you why. So let's start off with how I even got to San Francisco. Let's just go all the way back. So when I started out by applying to grad schools, I talked to Dion about it, and he and I decided that if he were going to come anywhere that I decided to go, it needed to either be California, New York, or Atlanta. That's somewhere that he would also want to pursue his career because he's also an actor. So this is where speaking things in existence and manifesting are really, really, really important, because in my prayers, when I prayed to go to grad school, I just prayed to be in California. I didn't pray to be in LA. I prayed to be in California. And God gave me that. He said, okay, well, you want to be in California? Let's just put you in San Francisco. Coming to moving day, I moved out. I flew to San Francisco with my parents. Well, we flew to Oakland, stayed in Oakland, but they nonetheless went to San Francisco. And it was cool. I mean, it was a cool vibe to drive around and see what was going on. My cousin and his wife, shout out to Trent and Brielle, thanks guys. They helped me move in, and they definitely supported me a lot of the time. Like most of the time I was in San Francisco. But yeah, they helped me move in and it was cool. And then, they left and I hung out with my two roommates, Rihanna and Connie. Rihanna is white and Connie is Mexican. So that bond was, it was something to build. We definitely all had to build one. I do feel like Connie and I got closer because of like being a minority. The two of us definitely got closer. But a bond was definitely built between the three of us before our other roommate Kiana got there, who was Japanese. So it was just a whole mixing pot of people in that apartment. Yeah, so everything was cool, I would say, probably until, well, no. Okay, so this is when I experienced the first downfall, I guess I can say. I was out at a bar with those two roommates, and this guy was dancing. It was a Middle Eastern guy. He was dancing with me. And if you've ever been to the club or the bar with me, if I'm dancing, I'm gonna hype you up, And so I'm hyping up this guy. I'm like, okay, get it. I see what you're doing. And he's like, oh yeah, let me see what you got. Let me see some snapping. Let me see some of this. And so I was like, what are you talking about? Why you gotta see? What you gotta see that? And I was immediately turned off and I walked away. And in that same night, we were outside that bar, and this older white guy was walking past us and literally screamed out, "Woo! I love me some black women." And I'm like, I know it wasn't just me. Y'all heard that too, right? And they were like, yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm not crazy, but what is that? What is all that about? So that's before school even started. We had 5 days, maybe 4 or 5 days, because it was Labor Day weekend before school actually started. And that was, I was like, okay, I'm gonna let it roll off my shoulder, as most of us tend to do. And when it got to us going to school, it was our first day of class, and I walked in the room and I was the only black person in the class. And this girl walks in. She's brown skin. I'm like, oh my God, okay, great. I do have a brown skin girl as my classmate, but she was our TA. And I was like, oh, this might be a problem. So automatically, I just kind of felt a little defeated. I just felt like my back was up against the wall. It's already a week and a half in San Francisco, and I'm like, I haven't even come across a black person that could potentially even be a friend. So I was a little, upset, but I kept pushing through. And though I love my classmates so much, they are some of the best friends I've made, it just isn't always the same. It's not the same to be the only black person. And I've told them this before, that they'll never hear the way that I really speak, the way that I really Ebonics, and the way that I really talk to my friends, because code switching is a thing. And that's not only just Black people, but Black women specifically have to go through it because we want to look less aggressive. We want to come off less threatening to people. So, I don't know. I just was a little lonely the first week or so until I met a friend who's like now one of my best friends. Her name is RJ. And we met during our well, actually this was before school started, but we met at like our teacher, professor, director meeting thing, and she stood up. She said she was from Baltimore. I said I was from Maryland. So after that meeting, she got my Instagram, and I was like, wow, I didn't actually look through her Instagram at that time until I saw her again at this other event, and I looked through her page, and I'm like, you know a lot of people that went to Frostburg, and she was like, I went to Frostburg, and I was like, me too. So that just instantly bonded us. Like, we were like two peas in a pod. She loves me so much and misses me all the time. I know she does. But yeah, so that was cool to like meet her. And then I was at a pool party that our school was having. Just so happened to be wearing my AKA bracelet. And this girl, Taylor, saw me and was like, are you an AKA? And I was like, yeah. She was like, me too. And I'm like, hey, Sonor. So that was cool, you know? And I will go back and say, like, that was in the first week of school. Like, that was cool that I met them. But, you know, I didn't see them on campus. Even though RJ and I were in the same building, I wouldn't see her that often. So I had two potential friends at that point that I was like, all right, like, I do know some Black people, like, bet. But, yeah, so I just wouldn't see them that often. And that next weekend, I went out to another bar. And this is really the one that really kind of was, like, starting to send me off on a bad note. This Asian girl was trying to walk past me, and I had twists in my hair, I had my long twisted braids in my hair, and this Asian girl was like rubbing my back, and she's just like, oh my God, you're so beautiful, and I was like, stop, I know what you're doing, you need to stop. Guys, she was like rubbing my hair, she was touching my hair. I was like, please put your hands off of me before I have to do it myself, and I don't want these people to see that side of me yet. So, I don't know. That was really when I was like, okay, this is kind of crazy out here. Like, people be saying whatever they want to say out their mouths to Black people. It's kind of crazy. And, like, fast forward into the semester, I just felt, like I said before, I felt lonely. I felt like I was the only one, because I was. Around my close friends in my classmates, I was the only one. And it got to a point of like seeing RJ was just kind of like a release. Like hanging with RJ and Taylor were like, oh, okay, I can like, now I can say stuff like words that I don't be saying around people. And it was a culture shock to the point that, I might get emotional, but I was on the phone with Dion and I like broke down in the middle of my neighborhood, because I was just like, you know, there's just a lot of microaggression here. People are just looking at me like I'm some exotic creature. I have to explain my culture every time I turn around. And I broke down. I broke down in the middle of my neighborhood, like on the sidewalk, and I was crying on the phone with Dion. And by this point, it was like October. And I was like, I'm just lonely. Like, even though I did have RJ and Taylor, I didn't have them all the time. And it's just, I was just alone. I was by myself. Nobody understood. It was cool to see my friends and talk to them, but I had to still go home and be the only Black person. It was draining, and it became really just, I don't know. It was overwhelming. It was really overwhelming, because growing up in a predominantly Black county, you don't face those problems. You are the majority. So I know that I am a minority in the country, but I was never a minority in my school or in my friend group. So I just never had to deal with that. And it was rough. It was really, really rough. I probably could say the worst experience I had was being harassed on the bus by an older Asian woman. She like kept harassing me for my seat on the bus. And if I had said no or made a scene, of course, who would have been the one to look bad? So, yeah, that's just to like jump forward out there. I just faced a lot of microaggression, and I was often lonely, and I was often just drained, emotionally drained, of having to put on this face of, hey girl, Melanie, like I just didn't have that release. I couldn't let my hair down even in my own place that I was living. So I don't know, it was a lot of work. It was just more work than it needed to be. Even with my friend group, I had to like sit them down and say, like, there's just some things you can't say to me, some things you just shouldn't say to me or any Black person. And it was awkward, but they understood. And since then, they have been like my biggest cheerleaders in my corner when other things have happened. I had not an altercation, but the costume shop owner made me feel uncomfortable about my hair. It was just, I don't know, it was a lot. And I felt like at sometimes my race was the elephant in the room. Like I felt like people would say, I felt like if I wasn't in that room with certain people, this isn't anyone in particular, but I felt like if I wasn't in the room with certain people, other words would have come out that weren't supposed to be coming out, or other mindsets would have come out. So I just felt like I was just doing a lot more work than I needed to do. So that's that. Other than the microaggressions and craziness that I dealt with, San Francisco was expensive. It just wasn't really much to do. Like, I mean, it was stuff to do, but you had to like get on a bus and get on the train, and it was a lot to try to like learn public transportation on top of being in school, because I had class every single day, and then I had rehearsal, or I was filming, or whatever. So it was just a lot. It was just a lot of extra work. And I know that sounds lazy, but if I wanted to do something fun, like I had to go to Oakland, and who was going to go to Oakland with me all the time when I had to work on the weekends, or when certain friends had to work on the weekends? It was hard to find that type of stuff. On the bright side, San Francisco is beautiful. They do have great food, like fabulous food. Yeah, I don't know. It was worth the experience. I will say that. And I'm glad that I can say that I've been there, done that I can say that I live in San Francisco, but I'll be glad not to live there anymore. But my school's amazing, and you know, I've met some really good people from my school. Like I said, the friends that I've made are lifelong friends for sure. So some good has come out of it. And that's usually what happens, right? There's always a rainbow after every storm. I even met an agent. I had an agent for like 2.5 seconds. So that was cool, but fell through because I'm like never moving back there again. But yeah, and I've learned to become much more independent. I was very used to not trying to step on people's toes. And even though now I don't do that, but now I know how to voice my opinion. And if it hurts a person's feelings, then I do apologize for that. But I'm going to make sure that I'm okay at the end of the day. So I definitely learned to speak up for myself. I learned to become a lot more independent. I was very indecisive before moving there. And like, yeah, most people are indecisive where they're like, I don't know what I'm going to eat for dinner. But like, I was indecisive on a lot of things that I wanted to do. Like, just simply like what I wanted to wear, or going out somewhere, or should I do this instead of do that? And like, brain racked all the time because I was so indecisive. But I learned to make my own decisions. I learned, and that's crazy to say at 24. Well, I was 24 at the time, I'm 25 now. But yeah, I had just started to like learn that stuff. And you really learn a lot about yourself when you're across the country alone with no family other than my cousin and his wife, who I did have to help me out. So I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how I like to live and who I like to live with. And I am very confident in saying that I am over the roommate lifestyle. Thank you very much. But out of my living situation came my really good roommate, Connie. I love you, girl. I love you. That is like my sister from another mister, for real. Like, woo, girl, we be here, okay? Don't we? Been many late night tears, late night laughs that we've had. And I miss you so much. I miss all my friends that I made in San Francisco. Like, I really miss you guys, and I wish the best for y'all, because who knows when I'll see you guys' face again in person. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment and subscribe. Let me know what you guys thought about my video. I know this probably was a lot for you. Imagine me going through it in 6 months. But I would never change it for the world. Like I said, I can always just say, been there, done that. So I love you guys. Make sure that you are smelling these roses during this quarantine. It's school time. This was probably a perfect video to drop for back to school time. And yeah, just do you and do what you can for your mental, physical, and emotional health, okay? Love y'all. I'll see y'all next week.